Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Grand Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Joe Everett. Well, currently 64 degrees outside here at the farm this morning. Even with the rain we got on Sunday, we were still able to get out and shell some corn yesterday afternoon in the fields. But that looks like it's going to be on hold for a little while. We'll have a full forecast update for you later on. But now let's take a look at some of your agricultural news headlines. Well, 2 Ohio counties have been declared a primary national disaster area due to drought. This secretarial national disaster designation allows the United States Department of Agriculture Farm Service Agency to extend much-needed emergency credit to farm operators in primary counties and contiguous counties through FSA emergency loan assistance. Emergency loans can be used to meet various recovery needs, including the replacement of essential items such as equipment or livestock, reorganization of the farm operation, or to refinance certain debts. FSA will review the loans based on the extent of the losses, security available, and repayment ability. The deadline for producers in designated primary and contiguous counties to apply for loans is May 16, 2025. The 2 primary counties available are Lawrence and Licking counties, and contiguous counties also available are Conshohocken, Delaware, Fairfield, Franklin, Gallia, Jackson, Knox, Muskingum, Perry, and Scioto. Now let's check in with Dave Russell as he has an update from this week's Between the Rows.
Time now for Between the Rows, brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct, the #1 fastest growing and largest Ohio-based independent seed company. For John Settlemeyer in Warren County, the last meaningful rain came on August 15th. Nothing to speak of since.
Beans are 8% moisture. They're 9.5 in the morning and they're 8 in the evening. You can't dry any more moisture out of them. That's as far as the sun and the heat can take them down. But all the leaves, or a lot of the leaves, are still on the plants. So when you're harvesting the beans or the corn, I mean, they're just a huge cloud of dust following the combines around, and it's difficult to see, and it's kind of a dangerous situation.
Settlemeyer says that while a combine fire is on a lot of farmers' minds, the importance of being prepared can't be overemphasized.
I know the folks are mindful of it, but keep a leaf blower with you and then have a water supply, a tanker, a little wagon of water or something in the field in case you do have that problem. You got resources there to put these fires out. A half inch of rain would sure clean the crop up, take the rain would knock the leaves off and probably wash off a lot of this stuff.
John Settlemeyer in Warren County. That's Between the Rows, brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct. I'm Dave Russell.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Yes, field fires have definitely been a concern for most farmers here in the Buckeye State. Let's check in with Matt Reese as he has an update of where we can find more information.
As early harvest kicks off around the state of Ohio, we've seen a number of combine and field fires already due to the extreme dry conditions around the state. In this week's Ohio AgNet podcast, we take a look at those risks and some ways to mitigate them as we work our way through harvest. So be sure to check it out at ocj.com or wherever your podcasts are found.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Well, cattle and calves on feed for slaughter market in the United States in feedlots with a capacity of 1,000 or more animals totaled 11.2 million head on September 1st. That inventory was 1% above September 1st of 2023. Placements in feedlots totaled 1.98 million head, 1% below last year. Net placements were 1.92 million head. Fed cattle marketing in August totaled 1.82 million head, 4% below last year. Meantime, milk production in 24 major dairy states during August reached 18.1 billion pounds, up 0.1% from August 2023. Production per cow in the 24 states averaged 2,036 pounds for August, 8 pounds higher than August of 2023. The number of milk cows on farms totaled 8.8 million head, 28,000 head less than in August of 2023, but unchanged from July of 2024. Overall, the United States milk production in August reached 18.8 billion pounds, down 0.1% from August of 2023. Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at today's weather after this.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Brittain, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Farmers, be safe moving from field to field this season. Keep your warning lights clean and in good working order for roadway travel. Take a few minutes to check your lights and reflectors and make sure your slow-moving vehicle emblem is visible as you share the road. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. This message provided to you by the Ohio AgNet, OSU Extension Ag Safety and Health Team, and this station.
Now let's find out when farmers can plan to get back in the fields. Today's weather is brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Periods of rain across Ohio for your Tuesday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. Plenty of activity today. Showers and thunderstorms giving us anywhere from 1/4 to 1.5 inches of rain. The higher end of that rain range coming with thunderstorms. And there are some potentially strong thunderstorms in this cluster today. By the time we get past midnight tonight, everything's done. Pushing away to the east, clouds will slowly break up. I think your Wednesday turns out partly Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We are also looking at a partly to mostly sunny sky, at least Friday, Saturday. We're watching a hurricane come through the Florida Panhandle area as we move from Thursday night into Friday. Where that low goes has a big impact on what kind of precipitation or even cloud cover we see over the weekend. At this point, I don't think there's anything Thursday, Friday. Maybe we see a few hit and miss scattered showers later Saturday into Sunday. I don't think it's a big deal, but we'll have to watch this track. We do see more clouds for both Saturday and Sunday at this point. Going forward into next week, we are mostly dry. A minor disturbance coming through the northern plains and upper Midwest early on in the week could give a few scattered showers overnight Monday night into Tuesday. But again, widely scattered, and I don't buy into big moisture at all there. And the rest of next week is pleasant with mixed clouds and sunshine and a drier set of weather conditions. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Well, yesterday, the USDA Weekly Crop Progress Report came out. Let's take a look at those numbers. The Ohio Crop Progress Report update is sponsored by AgriSpray Drones, empowering rural America through complete spray drone solutions. You can contact them at agrispraydrones.com/Arnold Precision. Starting with the national numbers, corn dented was estimated at 92%. That's 2 points behind last year's 94%, but 1 point ahead of the 5-year average of 91%. Corn matured was pegged at 61%, 4 points behind last year's 65%, but 6 points ahead of the 5-year average of 55%. As for the harvest progress, corn harvest moved ahead 5 percentage points last week to reach 14% complete. That was 1 point ahead of last year's 13% and 3 points ahead of the 5-year average of 11%. Illinois corn was 14% harvested, and Iowa's crop was just 5% harvested. As for the crop condition, estimated that 65% of the corn still in the fields was in good to excellent condition, unchanged from the previous week, but above last year's 53%. Now looking at soybeans dropping leaves were pegged at 65%, 3 points behind last year's 68%, but 8 points ahead of the 5-year average of 57%. Looking at the harvest progress, soybean harvest moved ahead 7 points last week to reach 13% complete, 3 points ahead of last year's 10% and 5 points ahead of the 5-year average of 8%. Looking at the crop condition, 64% of the soybeans still in the field were in good to excellent condition, unchanged from the previous week, but still above last year's rating of 50% good to excellent. Now looking at winter wheat planting moved ahead 11 points last week to reach 25% nationwide, 2 points ahead of last year's 23% and 1 point ahead of the 5-year average of 24%. As for the crop development, an estimated 4% of winter wheat was emerged, 2 points behind last year's 6%, but 1 point behind the 5-year average of 5%. Now looking at the numbers from the Buckeye State, topsoil moisture condition was rated 95% short to very short. The average temperature was 72 degrees, 9 degrees above normal. According to the most recent U.S. Drought Monitor report, 98% of Ohio was abnormally dry or worse, up 3 percentage points from the previous week. 29% of the state was experiencing severe drought, while 30% of the state was experiencing extreme drought or worse. Corn dented was rated at 94% this week. That's up 6 points over last week, 20 points ahead of last year, and 14 points ahead of the 5-year average. Corn matured was pegged at 60%. That's up 15 points over last week, 25 points ahead of last year, and 24 points ahead of the 5-year average. Corn harvested for grain is at 10% this week. That's up 4 points over last week, 9 points ahead of last year, and 8 points ahead of the 5-year average. Corn harvested for silage was at 87% complete this week. That jumped 8 points over last week, 33 points ahead of last year, and 32 points ahead of the 5-year average. Soybeans dropping leaves were rated at 78%. That's up 19 points over last week, 33 points ahead of last year, and 29 points ahead of the 5-year average. Soybeans harvested were rated at 14% complete this week. That's up 10 points over last week, 12 points ahead of last year, and 11 points ahead of the 5-year average. Winter wheat planted was rated at 4% complete this week. That's up 3 points over last week, 2 points ahead of last year, and 1 point behind the 5-year average. Alfalfa hay fourth cutting was rated at 66% complete this week. That's up 8 points over last week. Looking at the crop condition, corn was rated at 37% good to excellent, while soybeans were rated at 35% good to excellent. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the grain analysis in your overnight markets after this.
In a time of tight margins when every penny counts, could you be saving more on your monthly energy bill? Ohio Farm Bureau is here to help members get competitive electric and natural gas supply prices through its energy savings program. Participants save an average of 10% on their rates. Let Ohio Farm Bureau help you take the guesswork out of energy savings. Request your free bill analysis at ofb.ag/energy program. Savings not guaranteed. Actual savings may vary.
It's now time for the Louis Dreyfus Grain Analysis, and that is brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your Soybean Checkoff. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets started off the week on a stronger note. Double-digit gains in every commodity group. What was going on? Well, let's start on the soybean side. Charts have turned a little bit bullish on the soybean side as we traded through the 50-day moving average. The last time we did that on soybeans was back at the end of May. Soybeans, a prior resistance is in the rearview mirror. If we can have a confirming close for Tuesday, there is going to be an interesting run here that we have to watch over the next couple of weeks. As we look at the wheat side of things and corn as well, there was some overseas market activity starting on the wheat side. Cash talk that last week's a seller of over 400,000 metric tons of Russian wheat to Egypt's JSC will be unable to execute the sale at the agreed price. That got the wheat markets excited. You then had the soybeans moving past the 50-day moving average, and that was something to pay attention to. And then Brazil getting a little drier right now, and that's concerning for Brazilian corn and U.S. corn. Add to that the fact that we saw a flash reported sale of 165,000 metric tons of beans to China for the 24-25 crop year. China's been rather active. Here's the thing. The flash sales have not matched up with the rumors that we've heard off and on over the past couple of weeks, and that may lead to a nice little surprise on the weekly export sales report. Brokers report that Managed Money had bought 6,400 contracts of beans, 7,200 contracts of corn, 4,800 contracts of wheat yesterday. Canada's Port of Vancouver could be closing due to a labor strike. That could dramatically impact the Canadian grain industry, but don't get too excited yet. I also saw news headlines through the day yesterday about looming strikes along east and southeastern ports in the U.S. So all sorts of issues in the marketplace, and it moved higher. I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your overnight markets, brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Well, having a great day in Chicago yesterday, things have kind of settled back in the overnights. Let's start off with December corn, 412 1/4, down 1 1/4. March corn, 430 1/2, down 1 1/4. November soybeans, 1037 3/4, down 1 1/2. January soybeans, 1055 1/2, down 1 1/4. December wheat, 580 1/4, down 2 1/4. Looking at livestock from yesterday's close, October live cattle, 183.25, up 76 cents. December live cattle, 183.82, up 63 cents. October lean hogs, 82.30, up 8 cents. December lean hogs, 74.87, up 66 cents. October feeder cattle, 244.47, up 57 cents. And November feeder cattle, 242.75, up 97 cents. October class 3 milk, 23.85, up 6 cents. And November class 3 milk, 23.18, up 6 cents. Have a great morning, everyone. I'm Joe Everett, and you're listening to the Ohio AgNet.